Hello, we're here once again in this wonderful, lovely place where I get to talk to you and do what I love to do. And I'm glad you're here too. So, the wisdom that I'm going to talk about today is something I learned along the way, but it really does help you to understand exactly where you stand and exactly where you are in things. And, you know, it comes in three parts. And this is one of the temple wisdoms that I learned that really does help me. When I use it, I must confess that sometimes I don't. Um, and that is to ask three very interesting questions. And the first of those questions is, what is the part, what is my part in this matter? Whatever is happening that you're trying to figure out and sort out, that's the first thing we have to do is what is your part in this matter? What part of you, what part of your existence is interconnected to this? The second question is, what is God saying on this matter? And yep, that's a very important one. Should it be number one? Oh, first you have to figure out how you're connected. So you can go to God and go, hey, you know, I require help in this. But don't worry if you can't answer that first question. God will always answer for you. It's amazing how that works. And then the last thing is there any action required? Do I need to walk away? Do I need to go forward? Do I need to do something? Those are the three. What is my part in this matter? What is God saying? And is there any action required? And what you will be amazed at is that this helps you sort out a situation that you thought, can't sort this thing out. Yes, you can, and you will. So let's leave it there. As we move forward and we're getting close to, talking about the story, before we get there, I just wish to again put out that invitation. And yes, I'm going to learn how to put cards up so I don't have to go through this craziness, but I haven't got there yet. We'll have an intro and an extro, and yeah, we'll all be good. Right now, it's raw and forward. That's where we are. And those things will come over time. But I'm glad you're having patience with me while I learn. And if you require to learn something or know something or chat something over, you just need somebody to listen to you. Really listen. I'm here for that. You may be thinking, well, of course, this is what you do for a living, so there's coin involved. Well, first time you do it, no. Depending on your situation, well, I'll let God decide. And God really only knows. So that truth is in God's hands. So if you require to do that for any reason, you can reach out to me through eric@starthealing.me. That's eric@starthealing.me, eric@starthealing.me, and we'll begin a conversation. I'll be for you whatever help I can be according to the will and wisdom of the one that created me, God. Let's leave it at there. Let's get into this interesting story. I mean, they are on the way to the garden. Well, what was put up as the garden. And apparently something interesting is happening. And somebody has come and got the three that started this whole thing. You know, the lady that came from somewhere else and, you know, found the ruins because God showed her where they were and it became a city of refuge and sanctum. And the guy from somewhere else that we now know is part-time a dragon. And the prince and whatever secrets he may hold are all heading to the garden because this person is quite either excited or disturbed, and they're not sure which. But there is this hurry, do now type of energy. So that's what they're doing. They're following, they're hurrying. They get to that space in the city where the gardens are, and they can understand why. As she's looking, she's never seen a cornstalk that high. It's not Jack and the Beanstalk, but it's high. It's up over the wall. And then she looks at the other ones that she had pulled out and planted, and they're all like that. Well, one slice of that tomato will make a sandwich. The interesting thing is the grains that she brought aren't doing that. But then they weren't from other places, were they? These were almost magical and had grown significantly. Everyone was kind of excited about the matter and also a bit disturbed about the matter. I guess it would have to be both. But the beds seemed to be able to hold whatever weight was there. She knew, and she had only planted those at least maybe a week, week and a half ago, maybe less, and they were this big already, and they were maturing. So the grain, not so much, but it was slowly growing, and it looked like it was thriving in the soil it was in. So this was good. But they did have to figure out how to harvest said things. Maybe the mages could help. And at that moment, the female mage, sage, whatever she be, however you wish to call her, because she isn't really a sage anymore. She left the sage tower. Now she has her own tower. Is she a mage or a sage? That's yet to be defined. But she looks and she goes, "Oh my, magical food." Yes, apparently, the lady said. Uh, you're going to require to harvest that. Yes, and it's ripe and ready. And that corn will feed a lot of people. Yeah. Is figuring out how we do that. She looked for a minute. She thought, oh, wait a minute. I got a spell for this. And the next minute, these great big kernels of corn shook free of the, usually they're connected to cobs, but this worked. There was a magic bin that caught everything. And then the cobs fell to the side and figure out what to do with those. She said, I think that worked. Oh, yes, it did. We will handpick the tomatoes because I got a feeling they're going to be ripe and juicy and beautiful. And boy, I'd like to have some bread to go with it, but our grain isn't quite there yet. The mage sage looked over and said, well, that isn't hard. I have a mill that grinds flour, and you don't have to add anything. I'll bring it out as long as you make a nice loaf of really fluffy white bread like that nice earth lady before she passed did. Oh, there was another one? Oh, yeah. And she was amazing, but she was older and she succumbed to some sort of illness that we couldn't cure, which was terrible because we loved her food. The lady said, I make a pretty good loaf of bread, so I think we can work that out together. She said, but I do want to taste those grains. Those look amazing when they grow naturally. I think when harvest comes in a month or so, or two or three, I guess. how that works. I'd like to see what that tastes like. But until then, we can use the mill. So, lady decided that they would go back over to where that kitchen was, where that lady was such a good cook, and put the mill down and mill some grain and make some bread, but also see what the lady would do with it that was cooking for them, the cooking lady. Interesting. And so that's what they did. They made some bread. And she reached into her pocket and magic pocket, and in the corner, she did. She had some. Oh my. She was so happy. And she also had, yep, there it is, pepper and mayo. Oh, she is going to have such a tomato sandwich. She looked over and she goes, I don't know if I would call that bacon, but it smells like it, looks like it. Oh, I got that off that beast I took out outside the wall. Oh, you were hunting? Yes, I was. Let's just not ask questions about who I am or what I do and just let me cook. Okay. Some sort of piggish animal. Looks like bacon to me. And so she did it. She made her bread. A little while later, she figured out how to toast the bread. And then she took those big, lovely, luscious tomatoes. They were so huge. Just one slice went across the very large bread that she had decided to make. And that bacon stuff went across it, the mayo and the pepper. She had a sandwich. Well, she had a sandwich for a few, and she cut it up, and people enjoyed it, and they were amazed. This is awesome. This is what? This is a tomato. Yes. Do they usually grow this big? No, but this one does. And we have seeds. And she said, there's other things you can do with tomatoes. And I'll show you what I can do. And that man that was from somewhere else that was sometimes a dragon said, oh, I have some recipes for tomatoes too. They were all looking at them going, well, this is going to be yummy because they had really enjoyed that sandwich and they made a couple more and more people came over and more discussions were made. And as always, the alarm went off. It always does when you're in the middle of something good, doesn't it? Only this time, there was no rumbles or bangs or clunks. So they just went up to the wall, the three and a few others that were curious. And they looked over and there was a man down there. And the clunk that they had heard was him with a big stick knocking on the door. He goes, I hear there's people in here now. Yep. Well, I'm a traveling merchant and I have some very unique things. I'm also wishing to talk to that lady from somewhere else because I hear she has some pretty interesting things that I may be interested in trading for my interesting things. You can just call me a wanderer and that trades. Is it all set up out here? Hopefully nothing bad happens. Can imagine that takes a while to open and close. The lady looks down and says, yep, not open it. Not yet. Still working on figuring out to create a smaller hole in the wall. At that moment, something pops off the wall and shimmers. And one of the ladies that's up there says, I bet you the lawmaker can read that. Bet you that's where this city came from. So they ask one of the lawmakers, well, the other one is out hunting again. That's quite normal for her. The other one that likes to stay around the city comes up and looks and goes, well, the rough translation of what you're seeing there is Cartgate. Well, that would be useful. So I just push this button, apparently, while floating something. We'll call it a button, a rune, a symbol. She pushed it, and a little part of the wall opened fairly quickly. And the guy with the cart rolled in, said, this is more convenient. And then it closed very quickly. He goes, whew, I'm glad I got through there before it closed. And he set up. And to her amazement, in one corner of his setup was a Mars bar. Now, she wasn't from that original Earth where it was created, but she knew it, and she knew she would like at least a box of them to hide away under her bed for when she wanted to have that moment. And she would share, of course. But she wasn't sure she had anything he would really wish. And he said, I hear you have some wind devices. And she goes, well, I have a windmill, yes. I have the toys and I also have a complete schematics for a windmill for grinding grain, which I plan to use later. But I can give you that. He said, well, I'd like that. He said, I can duplicate that and have help people along the way. He said, I also like to do that. What would you like for that? She goes, a box of those. He goes, I can do that. She goes, where'd you get them? He said, I'm a wanderer. Remember that. And she goes, ah. How often will you be here? And he goes, oh, depends on how lucrative this becomes. Unfortunately, coin does push me. Ultimately God, but the coin as well. She goes, oh. She goes, well, I hope you have good sales. He said, I have something else I want to give you. No cost, but I feel that you could use it. She said, what is that? And she turned around to see him holding something that was really going to be helpful for her. She loved to draw, but there were no pencils here. There were other devices, but she never had pencils. Hadn't been carrying them when she moved. She had them at the apartment where she left them all behind. And this guy put it in her hand and he said, just a gesture of goodwill. He said, and I do have paper, he said, and I'll give you some. He said, but if you want more, he said, we can barter. And she said, well, I'm growing something in the corner that I've never seen around here, and nobody seems to know it, but everybody likes it. What's that? And she goes, pepper. Won't be ready for a little while. It's natural, not magic. He said, are you growing vegetables? He said, I'm always open for that. Well, we have some dried corn, quite a bit of it actually, if you want that. Oh, corn, yes, I'll take that for paper. So she got some more paper. And then, to everyone's surprise, the man that was from somewhere else, that's sometimes a dragon, was walking over, and this man looked up and said, wow, I didn't expect to see you here. Let's leave that right where it is for now. Let's move forward and find a blessing. Those blessings are amazing and wonderful. And so, what can that blessing be today? How about just simply when you are in that space where you require a word, that word becomes for you. And you are able to speak it, and it leads to a good and great and wonderful moment. Wrapped in joy, wrapped in peace, wrapped in hope, overflowing with abundance, and all the other things God would paint for you. According to his will and wish, according to your will and wish, this can be. Let's have a word of prayer. We come before you, O God, and wow, the story's getting interesting. Another little twist in the plot, but we know that's life. We know that's how it goes. And these that are listening to me are going through these moments. So we ask that you be with them in each one, with that wonderful brush that you would paint for them what is required. The respite, the escape, the open door. We ask that you just move through every space of their existence as they move closer to wishing for that relationship, or are learning to relate, or are farther along, but yet required to go deeper. And they know this. So allow them to do so. Be with them, grow with them, open to them what is required to be with you. And we say thankful, grateful, gratitude, thankful, grateful, gratitude, thankful, grateful, gratitude, standing in awe and honor, respect, allowing all glory to flow. Father, Spirit, Son, this is, and so this is. So you be blessed, and when you rest, rest well. When you wake, wake well. And know that your path is well lit by God. Blessings.